In this video, we'll show you how to change the upper control arm on your Ford F-150. You can find it on CarParts.com via the link in the description. Before lifting your vehicle, it is necessary to measure the distance between the center of your wheel and the wheel arch. This will allow you to achieve an optimal tightening of the parts in their initial position. For safety reasons, we strongly suggest watching our video on how to jack your Ford F-150 safely. To be able to replace the upper control arms on your vehicle, you need to remove the struts. Remove the cotter pin from the castellated nut of the outer tie rod with pliers. Brush the outer tie rod holding nut and spray it with penetrating oil. Using a 19mm wrench, unscrew the outer tie rod holding nut. Tap on the knuckle to release the ball joint. Finish unscrewing the nut. Then remove the ball joint from the wheel knuckle. Turn the brake disc inward to make this operation easier. Brush the bolt holding the strut foot, then spray it with penetrating oil. Then, using a 27mm wrench, a ratchet, and a 30mm socket to prevent the bolt from rotating, unscrew the nut of the strut foot. Finish unscrewing the nut by hand. Extract the bolt from the foot of the strut. You can use a pin punch and a hammer to help you. Brush the 3 nuts holding the strut mount bearing and spray them with penetrating oil. From the engine compartment, use a ratchet, an extender, and a 15mm socket to unscrew the 3 nuts that hold the strut mount bearings in place. You can use a wrench to help you. Press the lower control arm to create the space needed to remove the strut foot. You can now extract the strut. Brush the upper control arm ball joint retainer nut and spray it with penetrating oil. Using a 21mm wrench, loosen the upper control arm ball joint nut and unscrew it a few threads. Use a ratchet and a 10mm socket to keep the ball joint from rotating. Finish unscrewing the nut. Then remove the upper control arm ball joint from the wheel knuckle. Take a zip tie and hang the wheel knuckle to prevent it from falling. Brush and spray the 2 nuts with penetrating oil to facilitate unscrewing, which may be very difficult. Using a ratchet and a 21mm socket, unscrew the 2 bolts holding the upper control arm. Block the rotation of the holding nut with a 21mm offset wrench. Then remove the bolts.
For great content, our best price, and fast shipping, download the CarParts.com app now.
Remove the upper control arm by pulling it towards you and moving it back and forth. Pry with a small crowbar. Brush and grease the control arm area to facilitate its installation. You can order the upper control arms used in the video on CarParts.com via the link in the description. Depending on the condition of the bolts, you can apply copper grease to extend the bushing's lifespan. Take the new control arm. Unscrew the ball joint retaining nut. Then install the control arm. Use a plastic mallet to align the control arm bushings with the bolt insertion holes. Replace the bolts. Screw the nuts back in until it makes contact. To prevent the wheel knuckle unit from falling off, lift the front axle slightly with a jack while being supported by the lower control arm. You can now cut the zip tie with wire cutters. Using a wire brush, scrub the knuckle of the wheel knuckle. Then apply silicone grease to the flat part that will be in contact with the upper control arm ball joint sleeve. Put the ball joint back in place. Loosely screw the nut of the upper control arm ball joint back on. To avoid damaging the bushings, tighten the upper arm control bolts in the vehicle on the ground position. Lift the wheel knuckle with the jack until the original measurement between the center of the wheel and the wheel arch is reached. Screw the nut of the joint back on. You can now complete the tightening of the upper control arm ball joint with a torque wrench. Finish the tightening of the bolts with a torque wrench. During this operation, you will be intervening on the front axle of your truck, so it is advisable to perform a wheel alignment afterwards. Remove the jack. In our case, we took advantage of this operation to change the strut. Using a wire brush, brush off the location of the strut and grease to make it easier to install. Take your new strut, unscrew the 3 nuts holding the strut mount bearing. Insert the strut starting from the top part. Then loosely screw the 3 nuts back on so that there is enough slack for the next operations. It is then necessary to insert the strut foot into the control arm. Use a plastic mallet to fit it into place. Now you can replace the bolt of the strut foot. Use a crowbar to pry and align the control arm bushing with the bolt insertion hole. Meanwhile, reinsert the bolt. You can use a plastic mallet. Put the outer tie rod back in place in the knuckle. Screw the nut back on until it makes contact. Finish tightening using a torque wrench. Take the cotter pin and fit it into the castle nut. Using the jack, lift the wheel knuckle assembly so as to roughly screw the strut foot retaining nut. Start screwing by hand, then with a ratchet. Finish tightening using a torque wrench. Remove the jack. Then you will be able to put the wheels back on your vehicle. Put your truck back on the ground before properly fixing the wheels in place. The final tightening of the 3 nuts holding the strut mount bearing is carried out once the vehicle is on the ground. Screw the 3 nuts that hold the mounts back on until there is contact. Tighten the nuts with a torque wrench. Operation complete.